All right, we are live. This is actually the Minnesota Forecaster, but this could be the dawning of a new era. Talking about California forecasting, given the way the weather patterns are, it seems like this is where the excitement is happening. And so for that, we have Patrick Hammer, who of course grew up in the Bay Area and can tell us all about these storms.
Yeah, this is a good one. And isn't it interesting how we've segued from the drought of the millennia to Superstorm California, right?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was talking to you before. It's crazy. I'm about 30 miles in from the ocean, and the shelves at Safeway, the water is pretty much gone. People are buying batteries. It's schools are closing, which you said you've never heard anything like that before.
Growing up in San Francisco, I never heard of schools closing due to storms. But not to take anything away from this one, that seems a little extreme. But districts do what they do to
It's all about
limit the effect. Right. What I wanted to say is that this storm is certainly a handsome storm. Covered a lot of them, been through a lot of them. This one is certainly a healthy storm. I think it's getting a little of attention given that it's coming on the heels of a large drought. And I've always felt that droughts and heavy rainfall events are cyclical. They happen. California's had numerous droughts. Most of California really is a desert. And this kind of storm is also not a one-a-year event, but maybe one every 10-year events. And this is a good-looking storm that needs attention. And one that's going to get the attention of a lot of folks when they are commuting tomorrow morning when the storm is really set to hit. From whether you're in Kentfield or San Rafael down through San Mateo and then into Carmel and San Jose, it's going to be a big ticket item.
And I think it's going to
hit a lot of folks with rain and wind.
Right in the morning rush hour too. The timing is not good, I guess.
Right.
And I think even the high tides around Marin City or something, they're concerned.
Well, yeah. Anytime you get a storm, I mean, there is a little bit of a surge. I know we just came off a full moon, so there's going to be the tidal aspects of it, and the bay does fill up, of course, in the Sassoon Bay and San Pablo Bay and all the bays and throughout the larger bay will potentially flood a bit. I think the interesting thing about this storm is the multifaceted aspect. The rain, of course, which will be heavy, the wind. It's been a while since we've seen a very strong surface low move right into Northern California in Southern Oregon and be that wound up. And that's going to really create wind. And believe me, I remember Golden Gate Park lost, I think, it was in the late 90s, lost like 100 trees, if not more, due to a windstorm. That may have been a little stronger than this one, but it's something to certainly pay attention to. And then, of course, the Sierra snow. Snow levels will be, right at the Blue Canyon, King Vale area, and then it'll drop a little lower. The mountains are going to do well. I will say that the mountains have certainly had much bigger snows than this one, but this will still be a healthy snowfall producer. And I really think not a drought buster, but a drought denter. This is going to do a lot for the California drought.
Yeah, and then I guess there's another smaller storm coming Monday, so maybe that's the way it's going to be this year.
Yeah, you line them up, and that's what Reservoir needs. They need not just one big dump, they need persistent. And if you talk about, the big reservoirs, Shasta, Orville, Folsom, they need persistent drainage into those water basins. And a couple of storms are really going to help. This is exactly what California needs. I would like more of a snowpack to build for the spring and summer months, but I think the real takeaway here, Bill, is that I know there's a lot of media hype over this. it's been a while since there's been a good old-fashioned Pacific storm to roll into California, and this is going to be a high impact. I don't know if it's the worst in a generation, because I can recall as a kid many in the 70s and 80s and 90s that were equally as strong. But this is gonna be a doozy, I really believe. And for those traveling, especially across the bridges, the Golden Gate and the Bay and the San Mateo and Richmond, it's going to be a nice, you're going to be changing lanes without
whether you want to or not.
Right.
Have you? I understand a couple of years ago the Golden Gate Bridge closed during a storm. I guess that's not unprecedented.
It doesn't happen often, but it's something that has happened. For obvious reasons. I mean, the wind funneling through the Golden Gate can really cause problems. I've driven across the Golden Gate many times on a scooter or a bike or a small car, and you feel it. So, yeah, the effects of this storm are, you always hear about North Bay getting the worst of it, South Bay getting less. Everybody's going to feel the effects of that, of this storm. And 1 to 2 inches in the lowland areas and up to 5 to 6 in the mountains, if not more. I mean, that's a good, healthy storm. And my gosh, the Bay Area needs it. And where you are in the Livermore Valley, you're shadowed a little bit behind Mount Diablo and the lower mountain ranges around that. You're going to get a good little storm, no doubt. I'm surprised schools are closed, though. That surprises me.
As far as I guess I could kind of understand in the North Bay, but even like San Leandro, they're closing schools. That just seems really weird.
I'm trying to understand the wisdom in that, and there must be, because there's some very knowledgeable people that make those calls. But yeah, I mean, here in Minnesota, it takes a lot to close schools around here. But
there winds out here.
The one thing I'm curious about, Bill, is to see where live reporters are positioned, and are they positioned where people actually live?
Right now, the team coverage tonight was from East Palo Alto, because I guess there's a creek that'll flood around there, right? And where else? In Marin City, because there was some flooding there with the last storm on 101. And where else? I think somewhere else in Marin. It seems to be mostly. And maybe, I don't know if somebody was in the Santa Clara Mountains, maybe too.
Santa Cruz Mountains, you mean?
Yeah, I guess that's yeah.
Yeah, they get a ton of rain. There's a couple of locations there. Ben Lomond is one. What is it? There's a few, Three Peaks. There's a couple of what they call RAWs. They're automated rainfall stations that can receive huge amounts of rain, but just nobody lives there. But there are many people that live in the Santa Cruz Mountains, Scotts Valley, where there can be a lot of rain and runoff and big problems. In Marin City, you're right. And Marin City is, kind of in the tidal zone too, right in between, Tiburon and Sausalito, and I remember the flooding there as well. So this is going to be interesting to watch. Coverage is warranted. Schools closed, not sure, but
Well, I'm excited. This will be the first time I've experienced real weather, and since I left Minnesota.
Well, our weather here, by the way, Bill, has been decidedly quiet over the last, my gosh, 3 weeks. We had that crazy cold November, and December has been kind of just and now we're going to really warm up. We're going to have, for the meteorologists and all of us, record atmospheric 500 millibar heights. And what does that mean to you and me? Meaning like almost spring or summertime type high pressure sitting over us.
Wow.
The problem is it's going to cap in low clouds. So if you're at 5,000 feet in December, it's going to be like 60 degrees.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, that's crazy. But under the clouds and the inversion, it's going to feel a lot cooler. But that's the sign of a real stagnant, and any snow that many of us have on our grass is going to be gone, I think, by Monday of next week.
Carl the Fog is taking a long road trip, I guess.
Yeah, he's here. When did Carl the Fog develop? That's a new thing.
I don't know, but it's hilarious. Guys, whoever's doing it is like really witty, and it's you see it in classrooms. I mean, he's got like 100,000 followers, I think. It's
right.
Amazing.
Well, one partial reason for this is that there was a famous columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle. I'm sure you've heard of him, Herb Caen.
Yeah.
And Herb Caen was a wonderful writer about just life in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and he often talked about everything. But he talked about the fog rolling through like the harp strings of the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, he was very romantic in how we would talk about the fog. And I think there's a little bit of that captured in this Carl the Fog. But I think it's kind of funny because fog is an enigma of San Francisco, you know?
Yeah.
I used to think, oh my gosh, if it got to Divisadero, ooh, did it get as far as Van Ness? Ooh, did it get as far as the financial district? You know, that would dictate the temperature. And I used to go fog surfing. You would go like, okay, you would travel through the Richmond district, the Sunset district, and kind of, okay, I'm gonna nerd out here, but
yeah. No, it's interesting. The other thing is interesting, which I'm sure is very predictable. You know, in the summer, obviously, from Pleasanton, when I would drive over the hill towards Castro Valley, all of a sudden I'd probably pick up a little fog. And now it's almost the opposite. I think it's actually clearer some days on the other side than here, because we probably get a little bit of, I guess, with the Tule fog or something similar.
Yeah, the inland fog, like the Sacramento Valley gets, is radiation fog.
Yeah.
That will deep into the Castro Valley or in where you are. But the fog that the Bay Area gets in the spring and summer and fall is advection fog, and it comes from the coast. So it's a very different phenomenon, but it's still kind of cool. It's got its own little identity, and I love it. When you send me the Carl the Fog Twitter feeds, I love it. I think it's so cool.
I have to say, for a place with such generally predictable, boring weather, it's still fascinating. It really.
Absolutely. It's terribly fascinating. If you're in Kentfield or Ross, you're going to get 4 to 5 inches of rain, and if you're in the rain-shadowed areas of Morgan Hill, you may get 1 to 2. But it's still, the microclimates of the Bay Area are fascinating and hardly boring. Yeah. And this is going to be a great storm. The place that I would like to be to storm watch, let's say, because I recall some bigger storms that produced really large surf.
Yeah.
Of course, Half Moon Bay, Pacifica, you know, between the two you got Mavericks, Point Reyes. I used to go to Pacifica all the time to watch the surf and the big breakers that were coming in. And that will produce, this storm will produce some of that too. But I think I think anywhere coastal is going to be affected by this, but also anywhere that's prone to wind. And that includes the Castro and Livermore valleys.
It'd be interesting to see how high the peak gust at SFO is for this.
Yeah. Well, then you got to remember, though, San Francisco gets high gusts on a sunny day, but simply because of the temperature difference between inland and the coastal, the push of air. But that's our primary measuring spot, and as you mentioned, SFO has had 50, 70, 90, 100 mile an hour wind gusts recorded there. And it'll be interesting to see how high the winds get. I think they're going to be, I think 70 miles an hour is a pretty good bet, if not higher.
Well, it's fun to see how it plays out. Anything else you want to add?
Enjoy, because the weather's boring here, so we're gonna live vicariously through you guys.
Yeah, well, I may try to do a little video from my little boring Pleasanton neighborhood at the peak of the storm tomorrow, just to bring a little excitement.
If you get a chance to travel, Stinson Beach, Bolinas, two areas that may be fun to get some video from.
I'm not going anywhere in the woods tomorrow.
Have you been to Bolinas?
I've been to Stinson Beach. I don't think I've been to Bolinas.
Bolinas is a famous town right near Stinson where locals used to tear down the signs that led to it because they didn't want anybody to know where Bolinas was. It's a great little cute town. Anyway.
All right.
A little local Bay Area knowledge.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's great. One of these days, be nice to really have a California version of the Minnesota Forecaster.
There you go.
But you have to have.
All right.
Enjoy
the storm. I'll touch base with you tomorrow, Bill.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.